and welcome to 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking three powerful questions. I'm your host, Rachel Vogel, and joining me on tonight's episode is Mike Sherwood, the founder and CEO of Sparks Street Entertainment. Mike is a highly respected record executive with over 25 years of experience in the music industry. He spent more than 2 decades at Warner Music Group, where he held key positions at Warner Brothers, Elektra Records, and WEA Distribution. During his tenure, he collaborated with legendary artists like Green Day, Tom Petty, and Linkin Park, while also helping to launch the careers of rising stars like Dua Lipa and Bryan. Most recently, he served as Executive Vice President at Capitol Records, where he played a vital role in successful campaigns for artists like the Beatles, Katy Perry, Sam Smith, and Doechii. So Mike, welcome to 3Q. How's it going?
Going well. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I'm excited. This has been a long time in the making.
It certainly has been. It certainly has been.
Let's dive into your first question. Imagine for a second you're sitting down with your 25-year-old self. What one piece of advice would you give him on a personal note, and what one piece of advice would you give him from a business perspective?
Man, looking back to 25, it was a really good year. I remember that. On the personal front, I think I would give a young Mike the advice to be a little smarter with his money, a little wiser, and certainly encouraging saving much earlier than I did. Learning that lesson kind of later on life, it seems so obvious. And I think your generation is doing a great job of heeding the lessons of the prior generations before you. But I think I was already a couple of years into my corporate career, and I don't think I had even started a 401k at that point. So I think the advice that I would give to myself was not only start to save, but to be smarter with the money, the little bit of money that I did have at that age. It was very, very little. My first salary in the music business is so insanely low now that I look back on it. It's almost laughable. But being a little bit smarter and wiser with my money, I think, from a personal perspective, could have set me up for longer term success and bigger gains. So that's something that I share with a lot of interns when they ask me. It's like, start your 401k immediately.
It's not something that a lot of people think about. I feel like people come into companies and then 5 years later they're like, I'll start my 401k now. You're like, no, you
Yeah.
should have started it
It's
already.
just because you're just broke at that age and you're trying to, you've got a few bucks to buy drinks on a Friday night, and that's more important than putting a few bucks into a bank account that's just, it feels like it's kind of like mystical. It's not like a real thing. And I was certainly victim of that. I probably didn't start my 401k until my late 20s, which, if you know anything about compounding interest, not a good idea. Just put it in there as soon as you can. That's the advice, the personal advice I would give myself. Professional, I would tell myself to know my value. I had a very unorthodox beginning to my career, which doesn't really exist in the music business. I came out of college for a job that was created for me at Warner Music, and in the first 6 years of my career, I lived in 5 different cities: Phoenix, San Francisco, San Diego, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Those were all music business gigs that I had had. And all of that trajectory, all that moving around, all of that uprooting my life was incredibly valuable, and taught me a million life lessons that I still lean on today. But as I moved, once I settled in Los Angeles and settled down at Warner Brothers Records, really starting to understand what my value was as an employee, as a member of a team, as a future leader. Those things, I think I could have probably done a better job at different points in my career, in knowing when to ask for a raise, right? I don't think we talk about those things enough, especially with the future generation of music business executives. But when I look back, I'm incredibly happy with the career I've had, and I feel very blessed and very lucky. But there were moments that I could think back to specifically where if I could go back and give myself some advice, it would have been just know your value and trust your instincts and go and ask for what you know you're worth.
I think that's a really Great, insightful answer to that question. Are you willing to share one moment that you can think of?
Well, it's a series of moments, but I'm a very loyal person in general. And my parents were both blue collar people. My mom worked at a bank, and my father did all kinds of odds and ends jobs. And it was about working hard and being loyal to the company that you worked for. And I loved Warner Records and still do to this day. I am who I am because of them. But that loyalty, I think, at times doesn't necessarily translate to the natural progression of kind of like salary. I think you believe you're going to be rewarded because you're being loyal, and it doesn't always go that way. You see people come in, they get compensated or rewarded, and then they move out and they come and they go, and there you are. You're steadfast, you're working hard, you're an important part of the company. And just having that instinct and just having that wherewithal to know, oh, this is a good moment for me to go advocate for myself, about my value, is it. Because it's not an easy thing to do. Most people are intimidated by the conversation. Most people don't have those instincts because you're never really taught them. And so there were a couple points that I wish I would have like just raised my voice a little louder and said, hey, 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 like I did this, I'm part of this, we had success. Now let's show me the money.
Totally. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think that's a great point. Not a lot of people talk about that. Next question. Every industry has its dirty little secrets, and you and I both know that's no different in the music industry, but sometimes people think that's a bad thing when that's not always the case. Sometimes they can be good. So, it's one secret you would like to share with our listeners about the industry.
Oh yeah, there certainly are lots of dirty little secrets. I don't know if this is a dirty secret, but you know, the music business is full of incredibly talented people, smart, talented, especially on the artistic side. I mean, arguably, you can say if you've risen to the level to be able to be signed by a major record company, you're as talented as they come. But talent does not get you to the finish line, whatever that finish line may be for each individual artist. There's an awful lot of luck involved, timing and luck. And I think, that's a piece that when you look back at a lot of successful campaigns, whether it's a song, whether it ends up being a long career, you'll see these little moments that may have been created by the team around you, but I refer to them as luck. It's a little bit of luck is sprinkled in on the really successful ones, because those of us that have been around, and I'm sure you've seen it yourself, like you can meet somebody and you're like, they have it, and you hear the songs and you're like, oh my goodness, they're great, and then nothing ever happens. And it sometimes you'll rack your brain and just be like, why didn't it work? I don't know. Maybe this, maybe that. It's sometimes if you just look at it, you look at it and like the timing wasn't right. And they just didn't have that little bit of luck that it takes to break a song or an artist in the business. So that's one thing I always kind of look at. And it's a variable that none of us fully control. We can be positioned and work toward being positioned in the right place for when that right moment comes that you can take advantage of it. But it's an incredibly difficult thing to predict and certainly to create.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and it might even happen not in the moment, but 10 years down the line. I mean, you look at like Charlie XCX, Sabrina Carpenter, even
Oh,
Lizzo, like it's
great
crazy.
examples, great examples. Yeah, and again, not a secret. Patience is a big piece of it. The business has always been driven by one hit wonders, right? It goes all the way back to the 50s when they started with radio and they were playing 45s that had one single and payola and all the things that have led us up to this moment. That has always been a driving force in the business. But when you look at like kind of sustained long-term careers, a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance, right? A lot of dedication and a mountain of hard work by a lot of people. And with a little bit of luck sprinkled in there as well, because those are two really different paths and two different things. Like you can have a song, especially in this digital world that's driven by TikTok, you can have a song that's viral in the moment because it just entered into the pop culture zeitgeist. And then it burns so hot and so bright for such a quick moment of time that you're like, whoa, what happened to it? Where did it go? And then you have people that take years, like you said, whether it was Sabrina or Charlie just having the incredible year that she had last year. She's been slogging away for like 15 years at it.
I know it's crazy. So we kind of touched on it, but before we dive into the next question, with your background spanning major labels and artist development, do you believe that there is usually like some telltale sign when you meet an artist or you come across one that you're like they are going to break, whether it's immediately or 10 years down the line, you just see it for them, or you think that it really is up in the air?
No, there are absolutely artists that you have walked, that I have walked into the room with, that you are just like, this is it, right? Like you can see it, you can feel it, and then there's an energy around it where the other people, it's just unspoken, where it's just, there's a magnetism to it almost, and an electricity that you can feel. But I've been blessed with experiencing that a few times. It sounds so obvious now, but like the first time I met Dua Lipa, it was just like, I mean, it's just such a it's a different thing than the majority of artists that would walk in. And she's obviously turned out to be a global superstar, but I've seen it many times. And then there's some that just take some time to reveal themselves and to grow into that really like magnetic electric kind of person, that you may not have seen at the very beginning. And that's really the exciting part of being in the music business in general, right? It's so much unknown. It's just, I mean, the whole, every journey that you are about to start with any artist, any song, is unknown, but you know that unknown can become known overnight. And that excitement is something that just fuels me, and I think fuels most of us that have dedicated our lives to the business.
Final question. Throughout your career, I can only imagine you've been asked plenty of questions, whether it was for an industry conference, the media, or even a promotion. But throughout all of those interviews and all of those questions, there has to be one that you've never been asked but would have liked to. So, what is that question and what would be your answer?
It's a really smart and very difficult question. I even went and asked my mother
As you
for some
should.
advice on this. But yeah, yeah, when in doubt, right? Ask mom. Again, because of the success I've achieved in the business, I am a product of being an intern myself and having a long, sustained career. So I've had the benefit of being interviewed and speaking to classes and things like that. So there aren't a lot of things that pop to mind immediately about what I haven't been asked. I don't technically get asked like what made something successful, right? We just touched on it a little bit. There are so many factors in the journey of success that I think things tend to get, once it achieves a certain level, I think it just kind of it just is like, well, yeah, it just happened. Like, oh, they had this and they had this. And so you don't get asked a lot about, specific campaigns or specific artists and the journey that everyone took. The artists themselves, the relationship with managers, the relationship with A&R, how digital, set it up, and how marketing did this, and how the commercial team did that. You don't really get asked about that a lot, but that's really the most rewarding part of it, is the journey itself. And every journey looks completely different. There's obviously similarities about different strategies and different tactics that go into it. But those are the things when you look back and you think about the songs and or the artists and the album campaigns that really surprised you. Like, you'd be surprised how many people don't just ask like specifics on how it went and how you achieved what you achieved. So that doesn't get asked a lot. I would say the other side of it is, you know, I think everybody should have some version of a superpower. And I think I'm not asked often enough what really kind of drives me and has led to the success that I've achieved. And for me, it's curiosity. I'm very curious. Like if something starts to go viral or something shows up on a chart, I don't want to just look at it and go, oh, so and so posted it, or oh, it's doing well in Germany. I'm very curious as to why and what the mechanisms were that helped it get to where it's at in that moment. So I love to take things apart and challenge the people around me to do so as well. But I would say that's probably a question I'm not asked is a little bit of what's your superpower and how has that benefited you in the music business? And for me, it's being curious and it's being adaptable. And from those two things, creating actions that myself or a team can go and take on behalf of an artist.
Well, it's about time we close out tonight's episode, but Mike, thanks again for joining me. It's been wonderful to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
To everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Stay tuned for next week of 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking 3 powerful questions. See you next time.